episode of FCS Delivered. It's already been a September to remember in FCS college football. We have another Saturday of action to raise the bar in September. I'm Craig Haley, along with co-host Gary Reasons, the College Football Hall of Famer, two-time Super Bowl champion. How you doing this week, Gary?
I am fantastic, Craig. Just a little bit of a jet lag of getting over the excitement on campus. We're still here in the state that I took us off to, so I'm going to hold that off a little secret to where it is.
Well, Gary, in our second segment, we'll reveal where you're at on the FCS National Awards on campus. We'll also look ahead to Week 5 action. We will look back to a week ago. Now, Seth, Biley, and Graham Bell are our producers each week on FCS Delivered, and you can find us in many places, on podcasts, on HBCU Plus, our YouTube channel, and TheAnalyst.com. Now, Gary, last week I rolled out the picture of the week because you were at Southern Illinois last year for the War for the Wheel trophy that they won. This week I got another photo of the week for you because this week is Eastern Washington hosting Montana. In 2010, the first game on the red turf at the Inferno, Eastern Washington. I was there attending that game, covering that game. Eastern Washington won. They had a late field goal and touchdown. They beat Montana. What do you think of 2010, how I look?
I tell you look fantastic, Craig. I've got to try to adjust the lens because I'm not sure that carpet is supposed to be red behind. Red behind it should be green, right? Well, that was the start of something that was pretty special for those guys, and it's done well for them. It's kind of mesmerized the teams coming in there, and Eastern Washington's done a great job on that field.
It's a great marketing effort. I think down on the field you see the background colors more than that camera angle from the press box. Certainly, though, makes it quite bright. Now, Gary, as we look back to a week ago, we had our fifth FCS win over the FBS this year. It was Monmouth beating FIU 45-42. It was their first ever FBS win. What did you think of the Hawks with this one?
Fantastic. You just got to stay in there and keep going. And so they actually did. So, with a field goal at the end there, with a minute and a half left, it's pretty special. Just win that. And, we had rushing touchdowns by Sone Into in that football game for them. So that's pretty special. To get that win and make it special over an FBS opponent, congratulations to Monmouth.
Yeah, Kevin Callahan's been their only coach in Monmouth history. Just seeing his elation on the sideline was terrific, Gary. Now, it was a big week 4. There were ranked games, including our game of the week. SEMO, Southeast Missouri, did win the War for the Wheel. They scored the final 22 points to beat Southern Illinois. You're very close to this series. You had to be impressed with the Red Hawks.
Yeah, I went out to Southern Illinois a year ago and took a good favor to that program and what they're doing there. But this one, SEMO, they kind of fought all the way through the ball game. So Southern Illinois was ahead most of the ball game, and so the final 22 points, Craig, were scored by Southeast Missouri in this one. And so Paxton DeLaurent came through. He passed for over 300 yards in the ball game with 4 touchdowns. That's what you like to see in your quarterback, being able to play consistently and when it's tough on the road and get a big win.
Yeah, I tell you, those rivalry games, especially in September, to have them when it's non-conference, really special. That was a 90-second meeting. That wasn't the only nationally ranked game between two ranked teams. Montana beat Western Carolina 46-35. Idaho held on to beat Abilene Christian 27-24. It was a big week all around. And the Ivy League kicked it off, as you know. Columbia upset nationally ranked Lafayette. First win of the John Pope era. Yale, at the end, they beat Holy Cross in the closing seconds. Just a good week all around for the Ivy League. They went 5-3 out of conference. Now, our poll this week, the FCS Top 25 poll that comes out each Monday on TheAnalyst.com. The top 4 teams still getting number 1 votes, Gary. It's South Dakota State number 1, North Dakota State number 2, Montana State number 3. Idaho's number 4. They've had quite the season. That was a second straight nationally ranked wins. SEMO had the biggest jump, going from 21 to 13 with that win over Southern Illinois. We've been talking all year, Gary, about the Big Sky and the Missouri Valley conferences, how they're dominating in our Stats Perform FCS Top 25 poll. We talked about it last week. I'm going to get your opinion this week on what's the third best conference behind Missouri Valley and Big Sky.
Well, it's really tough. You got some selections there. You got some choices. You got the CAA, obviously, and they've had prominence in there, 4 or 5 teams in there at a time. And the SoCon is pretty special as well. Craig, I really it's hard to pick one of that is probably number 3 in those, but I think clearly Big Sky and MVFC are probably the top 2 with all of their programs in there. And UAC, you see them coming in this week as with 3 teams in there. So it's pretty interesting how this poll kind of shakes out at the end, and you'll figure out where the prominence is in the nation as far as the FCS level. And I kind of think it's pretty right so far for what we've seen historically and where this season has taken us so far.
I think you're right, Gary. I think it has been right. It's been a strong poll this year with our voters, 56 voters nationally. I'd say CAA football is still number 3. And I say this for a couple reasons. They're the biggest conference ever, Gary, 16 teams this year. It'll decrease next year with Richmond moving to Patriot League football and Delaware moving up to the FBS. But this week alone, 5 teams in the top 25 poll, from Villanova at 6 to William and Mary, UAlbany, Rhode Island and New Hampshire breaking in this week, and Richmond just outside the poll. I think volume gets it done with CAA. They used to be number 1, and really, Missouri Valley has come on strong on the FCS level, Gary. But here's what I like about what the CAA is doing, Gary. They played a lot of games head-to-head with the SoCon this year, and the SoCon was very strong last year. 3 playoff teams, all advanced to at least the second round. Head-to-head, Gary, CAA 4-3 over the SoCon. I think you probably have to like those kind of matchups in non-conference action.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a measure of where your football team is, not so much across the conference, but I think that each of these coaches and teams, when they have those things, like UAlbany, they went across the country to go play Idaho. So that's a interconference matchup with a Big Sky team, and I think that you're right, Craig. The CAA probably is probably number 3 here in the picking and the order of the FCS conferences, but we'll see where it ends.
Yeah, I think some other conferences have to raise the level, get it done. I mean, Missouri Valley, Big Sky, SoCon, and CA, they were the only conferences standing for the final 16 spots of the playoffs last year. 7 other conferences were gone after the first round. So I think you have to favor those 4 right now as the top 4. But, you mentioned the UAC. They've come on strong, 3 ranked teams right now. And then you got the Southland down by you, Texas and Louisiana schools. Tell us about Southland. I mean, they've had a good run as well.
Yeah, especially UIW and Lamar. They played well this year. And Nichols is a surprising team because they've been in games, even against LSU and Louisiana Tech, all to the end of the football game, that they were right there having a chance to either win the game and so forth. But in the end, those teams pulled away, and then they've got a couple of big wins. So I think Nichols this last week really showed who they are. They're a dominant pound running team. They're going to be someone that they're going to you have to contend with in the Southland Conference. And also McNeese. They are really a team that is, I think, getting new leadership now on their head coach, from their head coach, and that it's giving them a little bit of a different spin on things. And I think there's a lot more pride back with the Cowboys with McNeese State.
But we know Clifton McDowell has come in as a transfer quarterback from Montana. McNeese has gone from 0 wins last year to 3-2, Gary. That's a phenomenal upgrade to be 3 wins ahead of your prior season, and we haven't even gotten out of September. So great job all around for McNeese. Great job for these conferences to have multiple teams in the Stats Perform FCS Top 25 poll. Each week you can find it on TheAnalyst.com. Just terrific talent in the FCS nationwide. Now, Gary, we're going to take a break from FCS Delivered, and when we come back, we're going to find out where's Gary, what college you visited this week for FCS National Awards on campus. This is FCS Delivered.
Bring rings to beach wedding.
FedEx presents Tall Tales of True Deliveries.
Just another day on the job.
We did this for love. See what we can do for your business. FedEx.
Welcome back to FCS Delivered. Craig Haley along with Gary Reasons. Segment 2 is one of our favorites of the week, Gary. Of course, this is the FCS National Awards on campus, brought to you by FedEx and Urban Edge Network's HBCU Plus streaming service. Each week on TheAnalyst.com, we give you 7 weekly award winners, and Gary goes out with an on-campus visit. Gary, tell us about where you're at this week, who you visited.
Well, it's a lot of fun here, Craig. So I'm actually in the state of Utah, and I'm here at Weber State University, and I presented the National Award to a Defensive Player of the Week from last week, Kamari Bailey, who was the Defensive Player of our Defensive Player of the Week. They actually played my Northwestern State Demons, and actually I broadcast the game on ESPN+. So great visit to Ogden, Utah. It is so picturesque here, and it is beautiful. And this campus is immaculate. It is a tremendous campus. I could see why anybody would want to come here. The Wildcat football program is really prominent, and these athletes, they're really prepared, and they really are putting in the work in this program. Their head coach, Mickey Mental, is doing a great job. They've got a couple of award winners. They've had a Walter Payton Award winner, a Jerry Rice Award winner. You get to see all the Big Sky Conference Championship hardware. So we've seen it all. And we went out to practice to see these guys, and boy, they get out there and they work. And it's that hot sun out there at this elevation level is a little bit unique, and they take care of it pretty well. So these guys they work. And you take a look at Mr. Bailey here. He's a very good athlete and a guy who gets around. And he had a special day against Northwestern State. He had 3 sacks in that ball game, 7 tackles for loss. And I tell you, it was impressive for him to be around the football. He's just kind of a guy that's got a motor, and he's a big, tall guy. And he's from England. So uniquely about him, he's a guy who just played high school football in the United States, but he's from England. And you got to listen to the interviews we do with each one of these guys.
So on behalf of our partners, FedEx and UEN, I'd like to present Kamari Bailey as our Stats Perform FCS National Defensive Player of the Week. Let's hear it, guys.
Well, you see the team meeting room there. Fantastic, group of guys there. Have a chance to meet them and talk to them, and all of them are very respectful. And I think that Coach Mental has this program going in a good direction. So look out for Weber State and the Big Sky. They're going to be very competitive all year long. So they've got a program there that is built right. And congratulations to Kamari Bailey as our Defensive National Player of the Week.
Well, Gary, listening to your interviews, I mean, right away that Kamari's, from London, from England. He mentioned that he didn't play much in high school. He played basketball, and then he comes over and just skyrocketed as a defensive end at Weber State. I mean, do you find student athletes who come over from another country and maybe start the sport late, they sort of grow into their body, like their physical tools? He's just a physical specimen, seeing him out there, what he can do on the football field. Is that often the case with athletes coming overseas?
Well, so U.S. kids, Craig, have the advantage of playing youth football, junior high school football. They've had some building blocks. When you take someone like Kamari, who just got into football, there's so much more to learn. I always tease about it. You can tell the kids in 7th grade who play peewee football because they know how to put their pants on and put their shoulder pads on. Because if you hadn't done it before, it's kind of awkward looking in how you do it. So, but they get through all that. So yeah, there's some challenges for international players not really having the breadth of knowledge that all of the United States football players who grow up in the sport have a little bit of an advantage. So, but that's not holding Bailey back. He is a tremendous athlete. He's got great size and he's got great ability. What I noticed about him was his quickness. He's quick off the ball. He's got some pretty good movement, and he's very explosive. So that's what you want in a defensive end, as an explosive player. And he wreaked havoc on the Northwestern State offense all night long.
Well, I think Kamari missed peewee football, but he also missed peewee size because he was probably big from the start. But I love
he's taller than me.
I love the individual interviews, including the one with Kamari. Now, there was another one. The quarterback of Weber State, Richie Munoz, he mentioned how good he is playing Madden football. But we got something maybe even better, something throwback. Look at this.
Oh, there you go. Check this out. So he played Madden football. This is the precursor to it. This is Tecmo Bowl, and yeah, yours truly was in there. I used to be up on the NFL Players Executive Committee, and I got extra juice in my game. We knew the programmers as player reps, so they gave me a lot more speed than I really had. But I could play pretty well in Tecmo Bowl way back when, and this is one of the first football games you could play as a video game. Good job, Graham, of pulling that up out of the archives.
Really good stuff. Now, as you know, Gary, we have 7 weekly award winners, including 2 for Urban Edge Network's HBCU Plus streaming service this year for the HBCU FCS teams, 5 Stats Perform National Players of the Week or Team of the Week. You can find it each week on Mondays on TheAnalyst.com. Just a great feature that we offer, and then you go out for FCS National Awards on campus. So in our final segment, which is coming up on FCS Delivered, we're going to look ahead now to Week 5. There are great matchups all around. We will be back for more FCS Delivered. Welcome back to FCS Delivered. Our third segment is our Pickham segment. We're on Week 5. Gary, what a week this is. The most games involving nationally ranked teams, where one ranked team is playing another. Just a tremendous way to finish September. And that includes our FCS Game of the Week. Number 4, Idaho, is going to number 14, UC Davis, in a Big Sky game. The final game of the FCS week, 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Gary, tell us about this game of the week, because this is quite the matchup.
Yeah, well, Idaho, they're a team, Craig, I think, that is under Jason Eck, who's done a great job of pulling that team together. I think they're one of the teams that's going to be a big surprise in the Big Sky this year, because I think they feel like they've got a quarterback or two that they can play with. And also they've got the history of beating an FBS opponent. They beat Wyoming earlier in the season. And, they've beat a couple of other teams that are top 25 teams, Albany and Abilene Christian. So I really like Idaho and what they're doing. And so UC Davis is going to have their hands full with the Vandals bunch that comes in there. And I think that Jack Wagner can do a great job at quarterback with them. And they've got running backs. They got a couple of guys that they run back there, Elijah Cummings and Nate Thornton. And they have a strong defense. So I think that Idaho, Craig, in this one is going to be a team that is going to have to be dealt with. And what do you think about UC Davis? Do they have a shot here?
I give them a shot, Gary. I think they're coming off a win where they had their biggest crowd in the stadium history. I think there'll be another big crowd, energized, knowing it's the game of the week. Everything points to Idaho just because they've beaten good teams and, played well against the FCS, including the FCS win against Wyoming. But 4th road game in 5 games, Gary, I'm going to say that catches up to Idaho. I think UC Davis maybe hasn't even played its best football this year, but one player who has, Lan Larison, their running back, is just, tremendous, and he's off to another terrific start after the way, he was the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year last year. Miles Hastings is the key, though, because everybody on Idaho will be keyed on Lan Larison. Miles Hastings has to come out and have a good game behind center. Sometimes he can throw some interceptions, but he's a veteran quarterback. This is the game that's led up to UC Davis this season. I'm going to go UC Davis, but I think, they're the underdog in this one. Now, there are big games, all around, as I mentioned earlier, Gary, and that includes Mercer at Wofford in the Southern Conference. Mercer's off to its best start since 2013. They're 4-0. Wofford's been a surprise. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, Wofford, I think Mercer on the road here is going to be a team that's going to have to be dealt with. And I don't know that Wofford has enough in the tank to get them. But Mercer has had their best start since 2013, Craig. So you never know. But I think that I'm going to go with Mercer here. And who did you pick in this one?
I'm going to go Mercer as well. I mean, I think they're on a roll, and their defense has been phenomenal, just like Idaho. Wofford's been terrific. The way they've surprised, they've already matched last year's win total. So I do think it's a fun game. The SoCon's really just a competitive league. Now another competitive league, South Dakota. Number 5 is hosting Southern Illinois. Southern Illinois is number 17. Tough schedule for the Salukis to have to come back after SEMO, and now they're playing at South Dakota. Who do you like?
Yeah, Southern Illinois on the road, after a tough loss, and they didn't finish well. They kind of let one get away. SEMO they were ahead of them, but they just didn't finish the ball game. So now they're going to have to go up to South Dakota, and I think that program up there plays well indoors in that dome. So I think that South Dakota is definitely the team to look for here.
Well, the other big one in the Missouri Valley, North Dakota State, is at Illinois State. North Dakota State's kind of owned, that series, 12 in a row. They had a great championship game, a decade ago. But North Dakota State, I think we're both picking them. Here's one for you, though. Lamar at Central Arkansas. And here's a stat for you, Gary. We all know about Shunderick Powell and his exploits as a running back, Central Arkansas. Darius Hale is right behind him. They are ranked 1-2 in the FCS in touchdowns and scoring total points. 1-2 in the same backfield. Who do you like in this one?
Well, actually, we were talking about the UAC earlier, and I was about to say, there are 2 teams in this poll that I think are going to be surprises throughout the entire season. And it's these 2 teams. And when you have a couple of football programs, Lamar and Central Arkansas, really vying for the top spot in the UAC, this is what it is. This is what you have to come down to in this ball game. And I think that both teams are having fantastic starts to the season. They're powerful. They're built right. They play the right brand of football, and they run the football. And you talk about their running back. So I think this is a fun matchup, and this is one that is probably going to have national implications, Greg.
I agree. I'm going to go with Central Arkansas. I know we both picked Montana to beat Eastern Washington and Grambling State in that rivalry game with Prairie View. Now, don't forget, this is the big week, the 50th meeting of Montana on the red turf at Eastern Washington. Montana's owned that series, but they're 0-6, Gary. Here we are 14 years later after they 0-6 on the red turf. That is 14 years later since that first game on the red turf. Hope it's a dandy. So
I got something for you. Seth, do you think we could see that turf picture one more time just to make sure that that's really Craig Haley? That is Craig. There he is. Look, golly, almost 15 years ago. Young Craig Haley. I love it. Okay. All right. That's a great place to play football. And obviously Eastern Washington plays well there. So we'll see where it goes. And interesting.
I saw the puzzled look on your face. That is me. Gary, where are you off to this week?
Well, I'm not sure I can disclose that yet. I'm not broadcasting a game this weekend, so I've got an open weekend, which is good for me and the family. So just going to take it easy and look forward to getting out again next week and hopefully get a great visit on campus and look forward to possibly coming to one of the schools across the FCS. I don't know which one it's going to be every single week, which is pretty cool.
Yes, it'll be a great on-campus visit for sure. Now, this brings a close to FCS Delivered. I mean, what a week ahead, week 5. What a way to end September. There's just great games galore, and we're really moving into conference play. Gary, I hope you have a wonderful week and a safe trip back home. We thank our viewers and listeners for tuning in. This has been another episode of FCS Delivered.